Hi, in this video I'll show you how I built my air raid siren. So what inspired me to try to build a siren is when I was experimenting with building the blower for my dust collector. It howled a lot like a siren already, so why not try to build a fan that's designed to make maximum noise instead of minimal noise. I needed a way to cut the hub all concentric with the shaft, and I figured out a dangerous way to do that on the table saw. It worked out okay. The hub fits exactly into a hole the size of my largest Forstner bit. I used a large nail as a key to lock the hub onto the shaft. Here's gluing up the first layer of the rotor. Now spinning up that rotor to see how it works. Holy shit! So I could never find the part that flew off of here, so I made a new one and glued it back on. And I flattened all these down a little bit, so now they're only about 3/4 as thick, so hopefully they'll make less wind. And next I'm going to glue on the next ring on here. I'm using my table saw to trim what I've got so far perfectly round. I made a piece of plywood the shape of one of the winglets, and I just need to mark that 10 times to cut all the pieces that I need. Now I need to put these winglets on here, and I need to space 10 of those out evenly. Now the problem is I should have done that layout before I cut the hole out from the middle, because this is much more difficult now. I don't even have the center. So I just measured that there's exactly 95 centimeters around the circumference of this thing here. So I'm just going to attach the tape measure here, and because I need to divide that circle into 10 pieces. I now know that every 9.5 centimeters I can put a mark on there. So the first one's at 9.5, the next one's at 19. So let's mark that one, and let's mark 19. And now I just push equal on the calculator. Gets me to 28.5. I could do this in my head, but I'd probably make a mistake. Equals, next one's 38. So with the 2 layers of wings on this rotor now, it's quite heavy, so balancing it is really important. So I've got a marble jammed in where the shaft is going to go, and balancing that, let's see, it's obviously heavy on this side. So if I put a piece of wood on here, that looks like it just about balances it. Which means the amount of wood I need to cut off from this side is exactly about as much as here. So let me mark, here's where I'm going to have to drill out stuff. So I ended up drilling a whole bunch of holes along here, and it looks like it's pretty balanced now. It needs to be, because it's going to spin really fast. So this rotor fits on the shaft a bit loose, so I made a shim out of a pop can to line my hole with. So let's see if I can get that on there. It's always difficult to figure out if this is going to fit ahead of time. That seems to be going on. So I had a bit of excess shim that I ended up smashing with a mallet, and I put a V-notch in the wood, and I'm going to put this nail in here. That'll act as a keyway. It's in the keyway of the shaft and in the V-notch, so that prevents the shaft from spinning inside. So for this test, I put the rotor on the floor already, just in case it falls off again. And I'm going to be at a safe distance, because I don't know what's going to happen when I power it up. Okay, here we go. I had not anticipated that thing wandering the way it does. Let's try that again. And we're at 1100 watts, so it's a bit much for the motor, but we should be okay. Building this siren ended up being a lot of work on the scroll saw for cutting all these inside holes. Here's cutting the hole in the front plate that's going to be my stator. I've got the first layer of my stator complete, and the way this works, imagine this was the rotor, and it's got these little vanes on it, so let's just put down 2 of these to give you an idea, and it rotates, and just like a blower, centrifugal force makes the air want to come out, and so as long as I don't have these things on the outside, the air just rushes out. But if I do, then when it's like this, the air can come out, and then it can't, and then it can again, and then it can't. And because I have the same number of these little winglets in here as I have gaps on the enclosure here, that will cause pulsating air to come out all of these, which should give it a very loud note. So here's my 6 gaps, and these line up with the gaps behind here. Now the risk with this thing as it is, just clamped together, is if the rotor hits the stator, it'll probably self-destruct, so I won't run it up to full speed. But it's making a nice hum already. Now on the actual siren rotor, I've got 2 layers here, and this one has 10, whereas this one only has 6. So both of these together will produce 2 different pitches, so I have to put another layer on the stator to have 10 of these to correspond with the second layer. Here's gluing the next layer. Let's try it with the second layer of the stator. That should add a higher pitch note to it. And again, I'm just clamping this on temporarily. Hopefully nothing's going to self-destruct. Alright, second test. Ooh, siren-like already. So it should get a lot louder once I spin it up to full speed, but just with clamps like that, I'm too afraid it's going to wreck itself. So I got the motor mounted on a 2x8, and I've got these 2 brackets for holding this part here, and that's the outer ring, and I have to make that so it lines up so that's in the middle. So I'm going to stick some spacers in here. It should be bringing it about the middle. This should be the right thickness. Maybe another one. And that looks now like it is in the middle. So I'm just going to, for the time being, clamp that front face on here, making sure it's level. And now let's pull these spacers out. And that looks like it's got an even gap all around and it doesn't hit. So I'm pretty happy with that alignment, so I'm just going to freehand put some drywall screws in here. This is all very freehand. Oh boy, I'm kind of afraid to plug it in, but here we go.